If you want to know whether you're heading toward a heart attack, don't look at your cholesterol number. Look at the inside wall of your arteries. Specifically, how much inflammation is quietly burning there right now. Here's what shocks most of my patients. You can have a perfectly normal LDL reading on your lab report and still be building up dangerous plaque that will one day cut off blood flow to your heart. Cholesterol is just the passenger. Inflammation is the driver. In this video, I'm going to show you the 7 foods that medical research has confirmed can actively clear that inflammation out of your arteries. Foods that don't just slow the damage, they help reverse it. Most people believe heart disease is a plumbing problem. Fat clogs the pipes and eventually the pipe bursts. That's a dangerously oversimplified picture. After nearly 15 years in emergency medicine and preventive care, I've treated hundreds of cardiac events. And here's what the science actually shows. Heart disease is fundamentally an inflammatory disease. The fat doesn't just passively pile up. It lodges in arterial walls that are already damaged and irritated. Heal the inflammation and you change the entire trajectory of your cardiovascular health. An emergency medicine physician with a focus on preventive cardiovascular care. After nearly 15 years in emergency medicine, I've seen far too many patients arrive in the ER convinced their heart was fine because their doctor told them their numbers looked okay. But numbers don't tell the complete story. The real story is happening at the cellular level, inside the endothelial lining of your blood vessels, in the inflammatory signals your body is sending every single day. The good news is that this is not a story with a fixed ending. What you eat is one of the most powerful tools you have to rewrite it. In this video, I'm going to show you why the standard cholesterol conversation is missing the most critical piece of the puzzle, the exact biological mechanism through which food either cleans or clogs your arteries. 7 specific foods with precise amounts that clinical research confirms reduce arterial plaque and inflammation. The one preparation mistake that destroys the heart protective compounds in 2 of these foods. How to combine these foods for a compounding protective effect rather than just isolated individual benefits, and why consistency over 90 days matters far more than perfection on any single day. Quick favor, I receive messages from people who've watched several of my videos and didn't realize they weren't subscribed. Could you check right now? It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel reach more people like you who are looking for real science-based health information. Let me give you a picture that's going to permanently change the way you think about your arteries. Imagine a freshly laid stretch of highway, smooth, clean, perfectly even. Cars move freely at full speed. Now, picture that same highway after years of freeze-thaw cycles, heavy truck traffic, and zero maintenance. Cracks appear, potholes form. The road crew patches what they can, but the damage keeps accumulating faster than the repairs. Eventually, a section buckles, and everything stops. That highway is your arterial wall. The freeze-thaw cycles and heavy traffic, that's chronic, low-grade inflammation. The kind driven by processed foods, oxidized fats, blood sugar spikes, and a sedentary lifestyle. The patching crew, that's your immune system doing its best. Here's where most people's understanding breaks down. When your arterial wall becomes inflamed and microdamaged, the body dispatches repair crews, immune cells called macrophages, to patch the damage. Those macrophages absorb oxidized LDL cholesterol from the bloodstream to use as building material. But when they absorb too much, they become what scientists call foam cells. Foam cells are the core ingredient in arterial plaque. So plaque is not simply fat that floated by and stuck. It is the remnant of an immune response that got overwhelmed. The more inflammation in your arterial walls, the more macrophages are recruited, the more foam cells form, and the faster plaque builds. Reduce the inflammation, and the entire cascade slows down, or even reverses. This is why anti-inflammatory foods are not a wellness trend. They are a direct cardiovascular intervention, and the research behind these 7 specific foods is frankly remarkable. Now let's talk about exactly how this works inside your body. Your arterial walls are lined with a single layer of cells called the endothelium. Think of this lining as the non-stick coating inside a pan. When it's intact and healthy, nothing sticks. When it's scratched and damaged, everything does. Healthy endothelial cells produce a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals the smooth muscle surrounding your arteries to relax, keeping vessels wide, flexible, and low pressure. It also instructs the arterial wall to resist the adhesion of immune cells and LDL particles. When nitric oxide production drops, due to inflammation, oxidative stress, or poor diet, the nonstick coating cracks. The artery stiffens. Plaque begins to form. Several of the foods in this video work specifically by boosting endothelial nitric oxide production, rebuilding that protective coating from the inside. The second mechanism is oxidized LDL neutralization. A standard LDL test tells you how much cholesterol is circulating in your blood. It doesn't tell you how damaged that cholesterol is. Oxidized LDL, LDL that has been attacked by free radicals, is the version that macrophages absorb and convert into foam cells. Specific polyphenols and carotenoids have been shown to directly bind to and neutralize oxidized LDL particles before they ever reach the arterial wall. Less oxidized LDL means fewer foam cells and less plaque formation. The third mechanism involves CRP, C-reactive protein, your body's chemical broadcast signal for inflammation. When arterial walls are inflamed, CRP levels rise. When CRP is chronically elevated, it signals the liver to produce more fibrinogen, a clotting protein that thickens the blood and increases clot risk inside already narrowed arteries. Several foods in this video have been studied for their ability to suppress CRP signaling at the molecular level, not by masking the number, but by addressing the upstream inflammatory process driving it. But here's where it gets genuinely exciting. HDL cholesterol, the so-called good cholesterol, does something your standard lab report doesn't fully capture. It acts as a shuttle, pulling cholesterol out of foam cells inside arterial plaques and transporting it back to the liver for disposal. This process is called reverse cholesterol transport, and it is essentially the body's built-in artery cleaning mechanism. Certain foods have been shown to dramatically enhance HDL's ability to perform this function. Not just raising HDL numbers, but improving HDL quality, making each particle a more effective cholesterol transporter. Now let's look at the research. A landmark study from Harvard Medical School followed over 40,000 male health professionals for 14 years and found that those who consumed the highest amounts of dietary flavonoids, the polyphenol class found in several foods on this list, had a 28% lower risk of fatal coronary heart disease compared to those with the lowest intake. The association held even after adjusting for other lifestyle factors. Researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles, published a controlled trial in which 72 participants with early-stage arterial plaque underwent a dietary intervention using concentrated pomegranate extract for 12 months. Using MRI imaging to measure carotid intima media thickness, a direct marker of arterial plaque buildup, they observed a mean reduction of 35% in the intervention group, while the control group showed a 9% increase over the same period. A Johns Hopkins University study examining 13,000 adults found that every 10-gram daily increase in soluble fiber intake corresponded to a 27% reduction in CRP levels, the inflammatory marker most directly associated with cardiovascular event risk. The study used high-sensitivity CRP testing, which is significantly more predictive of cardiac events than standard CRP panels. Researchers at Tufts University analyzed data from the Framingham Heart Study, one of the longest-running cardiovascular studies in history, and found that participants with the highest blood levels of lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids found in leafy greens and certain vegetables, had measurably thinner arterial walls and lower plaque burden than those with the lowest levels. And a clinical trial published in the Journal of Nutrition by investigators at Penn State enrolled 45 adults with elevated LDL and assigned half of them to consume 45 grams of walnuts daily for 8 weeks. At the end of the study, the walnut group showed a 9.5% reduction in total LDL, a significant improvement in endothelial function measured via flow-mediated dilation, and a 10.3% reduction in oxidized LDL levels, the dangerous plaque-forming fraction. Now let's get into the 7 foods themselves. The first is pomegranate, 1 cup, about 240 milliliters, of pure juice or half a whole fruit daily. Pomegranate contains a unique class of polyphenols called punicalagins, found in virtually no other food. Punicalagins have been shown to directly stimulate reverse cholesterol transport, helping HDL particles pull oxidized LDL out of existing plaque. One critical note: drink pure pomegranate juice, not pomegranate cocktail blends, which are typically 85% apple or grape juice with negligible active compounds. Drink it in the morning on a relatively empty stomach for maximum absorption. The second food is fatty fish, about 150 grams, roughly 5 ounces, 2 to 3 times per week. Wild salmon, mackerel, sardines, and herring contain EPA and DHA, the omega-3 fatty acids that work through two simultaneous mechanisms. They reduce triglycerides, and they directly suppress the inflammatory cytokines that damage endothelial cells. The dose matters here. Studies showing cardiovascular benefit consistently used at least 2 grams of combined EPA and DHA per day, which corresponds to roughly 150 grams of wild salmon. Grilling or baking preserves the fatty acid profile. Deep frying oxidizes it. The third food is walnuts, 30 to 45 grams, a small handful, daily. Walnuts are the only tree nut with a meaningful concentration of ALA, the plant-based omega-3 precursor, alongside significant amounts of L-arginine, the direct amino acid precursor to nitric oxide. This dual action supports both endothelial function and the anti-inflammatory pathway simultaneously. Eat them raw or lightly toasted. Roasting at high heat damages the polyunsaturated fat content and diminishes their protective value. A small handful between meals is ideal, as L-arginine absorption is improved in a lower insulin state. The fourth food is dark leafy greens, at least 2 cups daily, raw or cooked. Spinach, arugula, kale, and Swiss chard are among the highest dietary sources of nitrates. Not the synthetic nitrates in processed meat, but the organic nitrates that the body converts into nitric oxide through a specific bacterial pathway in the mouth and gut. This is a direct pipeline to endothelial health. Additionally, leafy greens are rich in lutein, the carotenoid linked in the Framingham data to lower plaque burden. Important preparation note: cooking leafy greens in water and discarding the liquid destroys up to 60% of their nitrate content. Sauté, steam, or eat them raw to preserve it. The fifth food is extra virgin olive oil, 2 tablespoons, about 30 milliliters daily. Extra virgin olive oil contains oleocanthal, a compound that inhibits the same inflammatory enzymes as ibuprofen, COX-1 and COX-2, though at a gentler, sustained level that is ideal for managing chronic inflammation. It also contains oleic acid, which has been shown to raise HDL cholesterol while simultaneously reducing oxidized LDL. The extra virgin designation matters enormously. It guarantees the oil was cold pressed without heat or chemical solvents, which preserves the polyphenol concentration. Light olive oil and refined olive oil contain almost none of the protective compounds. Use it raw over salads or add it after cooking. Heating extra virgin olive oil above 200 degrees Celsius degrades its polyphenol content. The sixth food is oats, 40 grams, half a cup dry, of rolled or steel-cut oats daily. Oats contain a specific type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan, which forms a viscous gel in the gut that binds to bile acids. The liver must then pull LDL cholesterol from the bloodstream to manufacture new bile, a direct mechanical LDL reduction mechanism. A meta-analysis of over 28 clinical trials confirmed that 3 grams of beta-glucan daily, achievable with a standard bowl of oatmeal, reduces LDL by 5 to 10%. Beta-glucan also significantly reduces CRP, the inflammatory marker discussed earlier. Instant oats retain beta-glucan, but carry a higher glycemic impact due to processing. Steel-cut or rolled oats are preferable. Cook with water, not sweetened milk, to preserve the metabolic benefit. The seventh food is garlic, 2 to 4 raw cloves daily, or 600 to 1200 milligrams of aged garlic extract. Garlic contains allicin, which forms only when raw garlic is crushed or chopped and allowed to sit for 10 minutes before being consumed or cooked. Allicin has been shown to inhibit platelet aggregation, reducing blood clotting tendency, and to suppress the expression of VCAM1, a surface protein that makes arterial walls sticky and attracts plaque-building immune cells. A meta-analysis published by researchers at the University of Adelaide pooled data from 20 randomized trials and found that regular garlic supplementation reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 8.4 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 7.3. For those who can't tolerate raw garlic, aged garlic extract delivers comparable cardiovascular benefits without the digestive intensity. Now let me share the preparation tips that most people never hear. The single most common reason people get no benefit from garlic is that they cook it immediately after chopping. Allicin is formed by an enzymatic reaction that needs 10 minutes to complete. Crush it, set a timer, then add it to your food. This one habit doubles the active compound yield with zero additional cost. Pair your leafy greens with olive oil. Lutein and other carotenoids in leafy greens are fat-soluble. They require dietary fat to be absorbed properly. Drizzling your greens with extra virgin olive oil increases lutein bioavailability by up to 400% compared to eating them plain or with fat-free dressing. Take your omega-3s with your largest meal of the day. The presence of dietary fat increases EPA and DHA absorption by approximately 50%, according to pharmacokinetic studies. If you're eating fatty fish or taking fish oil, pair it with a meal that includes some olive oil or avocado. Ask your physician for the right tests. Standard LDL panels don't capture the full picture. Request a high-sensitivity CRP test and, if possible, an ApoB level and an oxidized LDL panel. These are far more sensitive markers of cardiovascular risk than total cholesterol. Retesting after 90 days on this protocol will give you clear, measurable evidence of your progress. And finally, commit to 90 days. Endothelial regeneration and plaque modulation are not 2-week processes. The studies showing arterial improvement use 3-month to 12-month intervention periods. The patients I've seen make the greatest cardiovascular improvements are not those who eat perfectly for a week. They're the ones who build these foods into a consistent daily habit. Don't chase perfection, chase consistency. Now let me be direct about the mistakes most people make. The first is buying the wrong versions of these foods. Most people do this without even realizing it. Pomegranate cocktail juice instead of pure juice, light olive oil instead of extra virgin, instant oats instead of rolled or steel cut. Each of these substitutions can reduce the active compound concentration by 50 to 90%. The label matters. Spend 30 extra seconds reading it. The second mistake is expecting fast results and quitting too soon. Arterial health changes slowly. You will not feel your arteries getting cleaner in week 1. The mechanism simply doesn't work that way. Most people abandon a dietary protocol within 3 weeks because they feel no different. But lab data from clinical trials consistently shows that meaningful changes happen between weeks 6 and 16. Give this protocol a genuine 90-day window before you evaluate it. The third mistake is trying to replace these foods with supplements. Can you simply take an omega-3 capsule instead of eating fish, or a garlic supplement instead of actual garlic? Here's the clinical reality. The food matrix matters. The combination of fibers, polyphenols, fatty acids, and micronutrients in whole foods creates synergistic effects that isolated supplements cannot fully replicate. Use supplements to bridge gaps, not to replace the foods entirely. The fourth mistake is ignoring preparation details. Cooking your garlic immediately after chopping, boiling your greens and discarding the liquid, roasting walnuts at high heat, deep frying your fish. These are all common preparation errors that degrade or destroy the very compounds you're trying to consume. The how matters just as much as the what. Heart disease is not your destiny simply because it runs in your family or because a past blood test gave you cause for concern. The patients I've watched make the most remarkable cardiovascular recoveries weren't people with perfect genetics. They weren't people who started young or had easier circumstances. They were people who truly understood that the interior of their arteries is living, responsive tissue. It responds to what you feed it, it responds to inflammation, and it responds to its absence. The endothelial cells lining your arteries right now have the capacity to regenerate. Your HDL particles can become more effective cholesterol transporters. Your CRP levels can drop. Plaque progression can slow, and in many cases, partially reverse. These mechanisms exist in your body right now, not in some future version of you after a dramatic transformation. Right now, today. What you eat at your next meal is already part of that conversation. Heart disease is an inflammatory disease, not simply a plumbing problem, which means your food choices are a direct cardiovascular intervention. The four key mechanisms you're targeting are endothelial nitric oxide production, oxidized LDL neutralization, CRP suppression, and reverse cholesterol transport. Food 1. Pomegranate. 240 milliliters of pure juice or half a fruit daily. Stimulates reverse cholesterol transport through punicalagins, best taken in the morning on an empty stomach. Food 2. Fatty fish. 150 grams, 2 to 3 times weekly. EPA and DHA reduce triglycerides and suppress endothelial inflammation. Bake or grill, never deep fry. Food 3. Walnuts. 30 to 45 grams daily, raw or lightly toasted. Dual action ALA omega-3s plus L-arginine for nitric oxide production. Food 4. Dark leafy greens, 2 cups daily. Organic nitrates fuel nitric oxide production. Sauté or eat raw, never boil and discard the water. Food 5. Extra virgin olive oil, 30 milliliters daily. Oleocanthal suppresses COX-1 and COX-2 inflammation. Oleic acid improves HDL quality. Use raw, never substitute refined olive oil. Food 6. Oats, rolled or steel cut, 40 grams daily. Beta-glucan binds bile acids, pulling LDL from the bloodstream. Clinically proven to reduce LDL by 5 to 10%. Food 7. Garlic, 2 to 4 raw cloves daily. Crush, wait 10 minutes, then consume or cook briefly. Reduces blood pressure and blocks arterial wall stickiness. The 90-day rule, consistency over perfection. Clinical improvements are measured in months, not days. And test the right markers. High-sensitivity CRP, ApoB, and oxidized LDL are far more predictive of cardiovascular risk than standard total cholesterol. Your health is not predetermined by your genes or your age. It is influenced enormously by what you choose to eat and how you choose to live. You have far more control than you've been led to believe. If you found this valuable, I need you to do 2 things. First, share this video with someone you care about. Heart disease remains the #1 cause of death worldwide, and most people have no idea that what's on their plate is the most powerful medicine they have access to. Second, subscribe if you haven't yet, and check out my previous videos where I break down the specific foods shown to lower blood pressure naturally and the inflammation-cancer connection most doctors never discuss. I'll see you in the next one.